I'm Nygaard, and I'm current president. And if you're here, if you would turn your cell phones to vibrate, and if you're online, if you would keep yourself muted unless you're speaking, especially during the flag pledge here. And I'll ask everybody to stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. And our online reader today is David Gilberstadt. Invocation, Lynn Scott. Can our contingency be seated?
I'm here.
Go ahead, be seated.
You're right, okay. The word of the day today is courage. This past week, the United States lost an icon of a man, Representative John Lewis. And my mind and heart kept circling back around all last week to this word of courage. And I realized listening to the memorial service that I guess others had thought about that as well. So a friend of mine years ago shared with me a definition of courage through an image. He said, courage is like a horse and a rider in a steeplechase run, where you ride the horse through a course and the course has ditches of water and has hedges to jump over. And the horse and the rider have to clear those hurdles and clear that water. And my friend asked me, do you know how the rider gets the horse to jump over the hurdle? And I said, no. And he said, this is the definition of courage. He said, the rider, as they approach the hurdle, has to throw her heart over the hurdle first, and then the horse will follow. And I thought, to believe in something so much, to be committed to a purpose, a value, an ethic, or be committed to a relationship or a business endeavor for many of those here, we need to send our heart out in front and then follow. It's really the only way that you can clear hurdles and that you can jump the ditches is to throw your heart out there. So courage, that's how John Lewis walked through 80 years of his life over both literal and figurative bridges. And courage, that's how our speaker today, Hyon Kim, has not only survived, but chose to make decisions of courage. And that's how many of us around this circle have built or sustained or grown businesses and opportunities in our workplaces, also in our forms of leadership, in our lives of our families and our partners, is by being courageous, putting our heart out there in front and following it. I think Rotary reminds us each week through the four-way test how to enact and direct that courage and for the greatest good. So we ask ourselves, will it be the truth? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Because we just don't want to send our heart out just anywhere out there. We want it to have a focus and a direction. And it's our values and our ethics, our religious beliefs, our four-way test that give us the foundation and the direction for living with courage. So I invite you to think about a couple of questions in your week. Where have you lived courage in your personal life? Where have you acted in courage in your work life? And how in this pandemic have you had to make decisions in this new and different world that actually, when you think about it, were actually quite courageous? That you have sent your heart out there and then made the jump. I want to close with a piece of poetry, portion of poetry by the Irish poet John O'Donoghue, who writes on courage. And he says, when the light around lessens and your thoughts darken until your body feels fear turn cold as stone inside, When you find yourself bereft of any belief in yourself and all you unknowingly leaned into has just fallen, steady yourself. Invoke the learning of every suffering you have suffered. Gather all the kindling about your heart to create one spark. That is all you need to nourish the flame that will cleanse the dark of its weight of festered fear. A new confidence will come alive to urge you towards higher ground, where your imagination will learn to engage difficulty as its most rewarding threshold. So may we all gather the kindling about our heart to create one spark, to live courageously and to live with courage. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is this on? Doesn't sound like it from the bottom.
Great, there we go, okay. Thank you very much, Lynn. Our Zoom greeter, David Gilberstadt, do we have any guests today?
Nobody identified themselves as a guest. If you are a guest, could you please identify yourself?
All right, record reporter is Jerry Gilberstadt. Thank you very much, appreciate that. I have a historical snapshot today, and this is from, I know her.
Sorry.
You're not this historical snapshot, John, sorry. Oh, come on, we wanted to see that. I think it's from Little Brothers Friends of the Elderly Picnic. Yeah, we used to have a good time doing that.
Yeah.
What's the name of it? Over on Lake Josephine is where we meet.
Bradford. Yeah.
What was it?
Bradford.
Radford House, yeah.
Bradford House, yeah.
Pull it up here quick. Oh, look at that. That was good times. We got to see Dick dance. We got to do that again. We did? Oh, yeah, Mark Sarlin too.
He would dance around.
Anyway, those are good times. Thank you so much, Kathy. All right. Does anybody have the inspiration here? I can't remember who got that. Not on site. Jan has one. Okay, you don't have it with you though. Okay.
Jan and I.
All right. Well, David, would you like to give an announcement about the coalition? And you should be able to just stand next to in front of the camera. Right there.
I'll just do this. I forget what I gotta do. So everybody should have received an email this morning from Kathy on the Coalition for the COVID-19 Emergency Fund for Ramsey County. We actually have joined Arden Hills, Shoreview, Mounds View, and New Brighton, those two Rotary clubs. And to date, we've raised more than $65,000, and we have given out more than $50,000 to I think 7 groups. A lot of those groups are ones that we worked with in the past. There's going to be a virtual run walk. I know some of our members have signed up for that. We've raised $12,695, and they have completed 150 cloth isolation gowns donated to the Ramsey County Care Center, and we're going to do about 200, so another 50 to be completed. And our next fundraiser is going to be classic car raffles. Someone's going to donate a '73 Ford Mustang convertible, and we're going to have to sell about 425 tickets, and that should raise about $20,000 for the coalition to do more good in our community. So with that, and if anyone wants to help out with volunteering or being on a committee, just let me know. There's lots of things that we could help with to improve it and raise more money. So we're looking at this as being a long-term deal, hoping to raise about $150,000 when it's all said and done. So, yeah,
Can I just add something to that? This is Mary Jo. Just that the run walk starts today. So sign up. It's a really great 3 to 5 mile, or I think it's about 3 to 5 miles. And you can walk on your own. You walk around Central Park or walk wherever you are, wherever you live. And it starts today. So you can still go on and sign up though, and you get 5 days to finish it. And so just go on anytime this week and sign up and do your walk. So it's a really fun, easy way to contribute. Thanks for your report though, Dave.
All right, I would like to ask our President-elect, Tammy, if you would kindly introduce our speaker today.
You didn't ask for any other announcements?
Oh, sorry. Do you have an announcement, Dave?
Yeah, I just want to remind people on Thursday, August 13th, we have another 501 Club Zoom at 5:01 p.m. So hope to see all of you there. Thank you.
Any other announcements? All right, Jenny.
So I'm very pleased and so happy she's back, and we have the opportunity to hear from Hyon all about a little bit about her trip, hopefully, but then definitely about the book that she has recently published and is now promoting and telling us all about her story. Welcome.
I have a PowerPoint. Okay, try to put it together. I just wanted to say in the can you hear me? You can hear me, right? I'm so proud to be an American, and Minnesota is my home, and I'm really grateful that I'm here. And so based on that, I wrote my book. And I don't see, do you see the PowerPoint? What happened?
No, you don't have it up yet.
Oh, okay. So she's gonna probably try that. So this is a one heck of a journey that I took it to write this book. And it's total of 327 pages. And I put it 70 pictures, including my parents and everything. And then I really I put a lot of efforts to chronicleize the war, which I put at 50 pages. And that has a number of our American soldiers who died in that war. And then I really kind of started out with how the war started, and okay, there it is. So this is my book. I can start. So you guys can see that, right?
Yes.
Okay. So that is my cover, and then my picture is in there. Okay, so I just kind of portrayed it as a Maria. That's my Catholic given name, but I don't really want to reveal my real name and everything. So because of my family still in North Korea, so I just wanted to make it kind of secret. So you know, I really this book is really about how I'm forgiving my communist father. I never forgave him for 70 years. So this is about that. My book is about forgiving him. He chose Stalin and he chose Kim Il-sung, and I just cannot forgive him for that. So I kind of got into, at age 4, you know, I mean, ideology of communist versus freedom and everything. I was just kind of in between that, and unnamed child was, because of my father was communist and I left behind, everybody say, shut up and be quiet. If you reveal, if you are, people know who you are, well, they tried to kill me. So my aunt told me, you are not exist. You're nobody. You just forget about your family, and you just, that's how you're gonna survive. So, you know, as a 4, I lived on the battleground of the war, and then I was totally lost, and I was unwanted child without no name and no family. That's the book that I'm writing about. I think next one, you can go to my, so yes, I did publish this one. I left here on June 24th as a, I left here with my script and everything that they were working on. And then I came back as a writer. So this is really a journey that I really took it. And it's just a, and then, you know, the published the book, and, you know, I had to go to self-isolation for 14 days. That's a separate story, I have to tell you. I mean, it was unbelievable how they put me into this Hyatt Grand Hotel for 14 days, actually jailed me there. And but you know, I had my own spirit, survival spirit. So I did editing. I work with Lynn. Thanks to Lynn, I mean, without her, I don't think this book is here, because she ran my business too while I was writing. And then I did jitterbugging. I did jitterbug actually in this small room to survive. So I did about 7,000 steps per day, not to go crazy in this room. Okay, you can go to next. Okay, so my book is, these are all different bookstores. My book is out there, and kind of like Barnes and Noble, and that's the largest bookstores in covering whole Korea. And then some of the stores that my publishers, marketing people took a picture here and there. I've got 10 more, but that's what. So it's really kind of an odd feeling that when I walk into this big bookstore and I find my book. So this was really wonderful feeling. And then I just want to talk about this book that I cried a lot when I wrote this book. I mean, literally, I was so emotional I couldn't come to work. So I told Lynn, I cannot go to work. So why don't you just cover and we work distance? And she did. So, but then interesting thing is that people who were reading my book, they cry, they weep, and they became very emotional. And then they said they cannot put my book down. They just had to finish it. So that was something that really gives me that good feeling that I have some literary little talent, that people understood my book. But then they also told me I was very direct, honest, and not sugar-coated with fancy words. I wrote as it is. And some people even say, make a movie and make a drama. Well, you know, I'm very humbly thanking them. Thank you. Next. So that if you look at, I think it just, well, yeah. So they put my book on Google, online too. So they can buy my book in Korea. It's all in Korean, but then they put it, her name is Maria in English. And if you buy the book, they give you 10% discount. So people do buy online too. So it's in the bookstore and it's online. Thank you. So this, the one that with this woman, she's a one tough woman, I heard, and she runs the kind of like ABC station, TV station here, but they have an NBC economy journal. So this is a magazine, and this woman, she just says she loves me. She interviewed me for 2 hours, and then she wrote about 6 pages of story of my book, and it will publish in August. And then the other one, I had a different hairstyle and then different clothing, but that's Christian television system show, and it was on live show. It's just right there. You cannot edit. And I was there, and it was a very good interview. And I really always intertwine with the North Korean refugees and human rights of North Korea. So at the last question they asked me, what do you want from Christians in South Korea? I told them that please take care of North Korean refugees and think about North Korean refugees in China that and suffering, and then think about human rights issue in North Korea and pray for them. Pray for them. So that was my message to them. Next. Okay, this one that my face is on. That's the one that they just gave me a little draft of. NBC Economic Journal who wrote the story. They sent me to just see how they wrote, and they did a very good job. And I was very humbly thank them. And I think that's gonna be in August magazine, and they're gonna send it to me. This is one of the major magazines I have heard that a lot of people are reading. So hopefully that will sell my book. The right side of the columnist Oh Pung-yeon, he was a reporter for Kim Dae-jung, President Kim Dae-jung, and he's an independent columnist. But he really did such a raving the job about my book, and he's the one really also said how honestly I wrote and without any sugarcoating. And he said he's gonna come to Minnesota because he said that someone lives in Minnesota. I write this kind of book. Minnesota must be a beautiful place. So you wanna come and visit? I said, welcome. So then I really became his member to be reading his column, and I'm very thankful that he did what he did. Thank you. Next. Okay, this is a very, very important show that I was so honored to join them. I was there a whole day to shooting. It was a daunting work, but I was there they're featuring for 1 hour and a half in this show. And they are all North Korean refugees, except the beautiful girl right next to me is an anchor woman, and there's another guy who's an anchor. They are my beloved family. They're all North Korean refugees. And for 1 hour and a half that we, well, it's gonna, you can see, we shoot it about 3.5 hours. We were just crying. They were crying with me because they understand my pain. Anyway, so this was very, very important for me to be with them on this show. And they're my family, they're North Korean refugees, very smart people. The one right next to me, Hyon Kim, is gonna come here to study in USA, and poli science with international law. And he's got his own YouTube and speaks good English. So that's about wrapping up, I think. And then I want to talk about my book. So this is my book. It's about 327 pages. And I do have 70 pictures, and then about, like I said, about 50 pages of, a lot of people do not know how this war started. And this is what I wanted to talk to Americans as well as Koreans about how this war started. Korean War is the war of Stalin. When Stalin in 1939, when he joined our group to bulldoze Hitler out, he made all those Eastern Bloc countries communist countries, except Austria. So when war ended in 1945, he was negotiating with Franklin Roosevelt and everybody, and then he wants Panama, so that we say, Roosevelt said, no, he wants Arab. He wants to have some pieces of the world, but then they keep saying no, and he said, okay, I'm gonna have a Korea and Manchuria. So he bulldozed down to Manchuria, through Manchuria to go down to south to Korea. And actually he was just going down, and thanks to America, that when American soldiers and General MacArthur was in Okinawa, that State Department quickly created 38 Peninsula. And 38 Peninsula, the Americans tell Stalin, stop there. 38, you cannot, you just go back to the north, 38 parallel. So I wrote all the details, but you know, I just really wrote, I think it is very important for people to know from 1945 when war ended and when Japanese emperor surrendered. That was the starting time of, I put dates and secret documents and everything in it about how Stalin and Kim Il-sung started the war. And then Mao Zedong joined. And then it was a bloody war. 48 million people died. And mostly civilians. And it's divided up from north and south. And I put all that down. And then 10 million people lost their families like me. They were separated. But eventually they found each other. But for me, I can't, because my father, you know, I mean, my father was communist way before Korean Independence Day, because he was fighting against Japan, and then he became a communist. So my anger to him is, did he know about Stalin? Did he know about Mao Zedong? Did he know about Kim Il-sung? Does he know that how horrible communist is? So I dig up the little background of Stalin. He killed 28 million people. Mao Zedong, because of Mao Zedong, Chinese lost about 7-8 million people. Losses of starvation and everything. So I detailed that, and I was challenging as a Christian. And I every time when I do the Lord's Prayer, I always say, you know, forgive trespass against, you know, that piece. I cannot say that. So I wrote that down, and I wrote letter to my father. And that's where, you know, and then in the first chapter, I really write down the brutal war of Korean War. How many people, I mean, just the scene of what had happened. And then I left it behind when I was 4. And then, you know, my aunt unwelcomed me. First thing that she shouted at me was, why you, not just your brother? Because son is more important than me. And I said, just almost like get rid of her, kind of like that to my grandmother. So I had living in that situation where my uncle did not talk to me for 11 years when I was there. So, I mean, so I'm kind of going through that as my birthplace is South Korea. My father had a highly educated man. My mother was a school teacher. Back then, maybe only 1% of women got education. So I came from good family, very noble family, but because of my stupid father's communist belief, we were crashed. So anyway, so I wrote about that. And then I wrote about my life as a child, as a middle of the war, that I was really the wanted child to kill because my father was deep red, reddest red. He was a leader of the Kim Il-sung's team in South Korea. And he evacuated to North Korea right at when MacArthur came in, because that was ordered by Kim Il-sung. And then I split it from that because I was way down south picking up some rice, and my father mourned for me. He cannot forgive my mother that she let me go to down south to catch some rice. And I say, thank God I was not with them, because otherwise I'd be in North Korea right now. So it's my destiny of being free and live here and talking to you about this. That was split second when I went down, and then my whole family. And then my father wrote a letter to my aunt say, this war will be ended in 2 months, which Kim Il-sung and Stalin planted. And they even say that in the history that document that it right now there. So they tried to make a quick war so American cannot involve. So Americans and UN, it's not only American, there are like 69 countries got involved with Turkey and Canada and France and all of just American was the leader because South Korean President Lee Seung-man Lee gave that authority to MacArthur, General MacArthur. But it was a UN war, and then really thanks to UN war to save South Korea because in 1948, out of all that upheaval, all that mess, that UN conformed and UN approved that Republic of Korea is a legitimate country. So because of that in 1948, that UN can come to the land and save South Korea. So I really mention about, there's a lot of back and forth. I talk about the MacArthur's mistake. He undermined China, that he thought that only 150,000 soldiers will come, but it's almost 800,000 came. So actually Mao Zedong and Stalin and Kim Il-sung created that peril. So, I mean, really America, I'm not saying we're perfect, but I really think that we shed our blood. Now I'm, as an American, we shed our blood to save that country, South Korea. So now, I'm not going to tell all that because you have to read my book in English. And then, so I wrote all the details. Why? I want my father to know. I know he died. Kim Il-sung shot him to death. He executed him in 1956. So of all this grudge I had on him, he was dead already, But in my mind, he's a criminal, So, but I just really out of my emotionally, I want to forgive him. I want to forgive him in front of my God. So I wrote all this to say, did you know? I said in one point, I said, you think that you're okay because you got killed by Kim Il-sung because of your communist belief, but no, I cannot, that's nothing. What about your girl that you left behind at 4? And I got dumped on everything that what you have done. I mean, he was not a bad guy, but as a communist. So I went on and then I just kind of wrote how I lived. So this is what my whole book about, and then I kind of, so I went through like my age 4 to 17, then my aunt kicked me out, literally, so I became homeless. And do you know that YWCA, American organization, saved me? They kept me for 1 month and I found out that I could join the military. So I was homeless. And 1963, it was 1963 in South Korea, that there was no factories or nothing. There was a very poor country back then. So if you are homeless like me, I was totally homeless. That either you become a prostitute, you become a housekeeper or something, So thank God, God saved me from that and I joined the military. So I joined the military and I finished my high school in military. Then because of my military experience, and you know what, I mean, my high school counselor, when I told them I'm homeless, they took my IQ, and my IQ is, I guess, a little high, as 146, they said. So because of maybe I went to high school, and then because of my military serving, I got a job after I took the test, that I got a job with the US military as a military police and CID as an administrator there, and then I did also guarding. So I have a story about that, and then I have a story about moving to Minnesota in 1970, and then I talk about a little history of this country's Civil War, Rosa Parks and poll tax and literary tax, and civil rights movement really with the Dr. Martin Luther King's movement really allow colored people to come to immigrate to this country in 1965, because they lift the quota system where the people from the Asia, Africa, and we could not come here until 1965. So I wrote about that, and then I came here in 1970, and then I started my journey. I have some, in middle of that, I was a bartender, helping my husband to go to school and all that. But then in 1981, when I was 35, I went to University of Minnesota. And the way that I wanted to say in my book, I said, the women's movement and civil rights movement kind of handed and working from the 1840s. And, blacks can vote, but then women can vote in 1920s. But then also women's movement went on. And then because of all that civil rights movement and women's movement, that 1970, starting 1970, this country really starting to work with Gloria Steinem and different people working with the women's movement, but there are so many heroines, so many women that they didn't really, you don't see their name, but they were out there working for the women's rights. And that's how I got my education, because of, I was 35 already, and when I went to University of Minnesota, I was so scared to death. 2 kids, no money, and single mom, and no education. I said, do you think I can only finish 2 years? And, these are women warriors. They said, and then I said, my gosh, and I'm already 35. I'm going to be 40 pretty soon. And they said, well, you're going to finish 4 years, not 2 years. And they said, you're going to be 40 anyway. So you might as well come to school and become 40. And then every step of the way that they helped me. They helped me. I was not in welfare, but some of the women, if I have to, I would. But I worked with the work study, and so I wrote about that, how wonderful this America giving me an opportunity to go to school, and I got my degree. So after that, I really think this is kind of maybe I'm wrapping up. I just really want to be, I don't want to be sidekick in this country. I want to be in real American. So I study English like hell. And I do have a little kimchi accent, but you understand what I'm talking about. So I study and study. And then I tell this book, I said, beautiful thing about this country, America, is that volunteer, like you guys. So I said, I really got into the mainstream American doing volunteer. That's what I told my interview too. I said, you just have to volunteer. And I did mention many times about my Rotary Club too, how proud I am about my Rotary Club. And so then, for God's, my golly, Mary Jo, you're the one too. You guys sent me to serve as a regent at the U of M. So this is the country, I can talk about racism and all that, but there are a lot of positive things in this country. And I really think that this country really built to be even though there are 7 million white men with property, create this country, but foundation of this groundwork about individual rights and all this is really in here. We're not like Roman empires. We're not like some other countries that they were strong and they died. I believe America will be here for so long as we practice that. So finally, what I said in my book epilogue is that I am so grateful that I'm here. And my mission, even Ted, you gave me that courage. I thought after 70, I thought I'm just getting too old. So I'm just not going to do a whole lot of volunteer. I'm just going to sit around. But when I look at you, you give me the courage, and all of you, and then that 4-way testing and everything. I'm just pick on Ted because he's a little older than me. But anyway. But my mission is that working with people like you, working with another group, and I belong to Mary Jo sent me to work for Innovative Board and all that. So I'm really charged into keep up my civil engineering company as an immigrated engineers to be. I accept, actually, white or whatever the color, I accept everybody who are good engineers, but I just really wanted to make a statement to say diverse engineers in my company can do good job. you know, name like Muhammad, Ari, and then Peter, and then, you know, Paul and Chris, my kids. So that is my mission. I wanted to live my life not stopping until I cannot work. I just really like to work with all of you and the people, good Americans here, to really work with the cause that we are working on to make this country strong. This country has a lot of value. This country has to be going with a good direction, not the other way, you know. We are such a diverse population we have. We have such a wonderful Americans here, whether new immigrants and old immigrants and really Native American who has been here, the African American who came here as an unfortunate way. We have to work together. We have to work together as a group. So that's my final thought. I will take your question. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hyon. Do we have questions for her?
Yeah, Jan, first of all, is being over the 501 committee, I had no idea that you had skills in bartending.
For 9 years.
Yes, wow. But
Margaritas and Manhattan and martinis.
yes, my question is, when is your English translation of the book going to be out?
Well, you know what? I mean, I get a lot of questions about that. So now I am searching for, I have a one person in my mind or two that who understand Korean and English both perfectly. And then we will write, it's going to be group work. My son doesn't read Korean, but he's such a good writer. And I want him to be part of it because he's the one that I wrote to my children too, because I don't have anybody but those two. Some are in North Korea. So yeah, so now I'm thinking about, you know what? I told Lynn, I said, the 2020 to 2021, and she said, well, you know, she said, it's only 4 months left and the election is coming, you know? So I would say 2021 for sure. 2021 for sure.
Oh, can I get a copy?
You guys like to, if it's written in English, do you guys like to read?
Yes.
Absolutely.
I'm glad. This is Mary Jo. I'm glad, David, I'm glad you asked that question. I was wondering the same thing. I can hardly wait, until we can read it in English. And I'm not surprised that you had a good showing in South Korea. I have so always admired your spirit from the time that I got to support you for the Board of Regents, and now you're on our Workforce and Innovations Board and helping us really walk the talk with diversity in our contracting. You're really pushing us as a county. I just can't thank you enough for how you keep pushing people to do the right thing. And I just really want to say how much I appreciate that. And I could ask you lots of questions, and I'm just sensitive of the time. I want to just ask one quick one. Your book, you said, is about forgiveness, and I'm very touched by that. Did you forgive your dad before you wrote it, or did you forgive him in the process of writing it?
Process. So, you know, Lynn knows because she knows about, you know, I mean, she was like reflecting like mirror. But you know what? In my book too, I said, not forgiving my father for 70 years. You know, I was just really upset with him. It's like, I feel like I have a big rock in my heart. And I can be a little tough because of that damn rock in my heart. Well, after I forgive him, I remove that rock. I just hope that I'm much more gentle person.
Well, you're amazing just the way you are.
When you don't forgive somebody, I mean, I was basically so angry at him that how terrible. I mean, look at my mother, for God's sake, you know, she's a highly educated teacher, but she got stuck in North Korea and she died starvation. She died out of starvation. She just refused to eat. She closed her mouth because she wants her family to eat. So she just closed her mouth and she died. And she showed me her handwritten Bible. I mean, you know, my father really put all of us. And then what about like my brothers? Well, 5 people died out of 13 family I met in 1990. I went to see I went to North Korea in 1990. That's in the book. And I really actually went to 1990 to North Korea to really challenge my father. But he died, he was dead already. And then, you know, I mean, not only he died, he got shot, executed. My family could not even get his body. So his body is lay on the ground, some street with a bunch of other people that they shoot to death. So my family don't even have a, you know, place. My mother just took me to the regular normal street, and he talks to my father just like he's alive. He says, "This is your daughter that you mourn and you never forgive. You got so angry at me to let her go, and here she is."
Okay, I think I'm gonna stop us right here, and we'll close the meeting, but anybody who still has questions for Hyon, because I think we all are really interested, but can you stay a little longer? Are you available, Hyon?
Oh yeah, I can. But I really, you know what? I really wish I gave some more time for you guys to question. So I'm so sorry. Lynn told me 5 minutes each, but I went on. So sorry, Lynn. But one thing, last thing that I want to tell you.
The meeting, stay a little bit.
Thank you, Lynn. I mean, this book that I wrote, Lynn was a big part of this too for me to write this book. She really held my business while I was reading. I was writing. Thanks, Lynn. Officially, thank you, Lynn.
Okay, so thank you again, Hyon, this was wonderful. Jenny, can you tell us who is, oh, by the way, Hyon may not know, but we make contributions to the Rotary Woods and Vanguard on behalf of our speakers. Thank you. Jenny, can you tell us who our speaker is next week?
Yes, our speaker is Stevie Ray, and many of you might know or have heard of him. He typically gives away us a improv or comedy club during when we have our Roseville auction. So he is a part of that. But what he's coming next week to talk to us about is really how oftentimes we think about comedy and entertainment and improv all around that entertainment piece. But he's really here to share with us how you can use improv in your everyday business skills. It can really help you become an even better communicator, think on your feet. And so he of course brings entertainment along with him. So it'll be a really exciting presentation.
Well, thank you. That sounds wonderful. If you have friends that you think would enjoy that topic, please forward them the invite.
I'm very humbly here. If anybody has question, I'm really thanking you. And this is my.
We'll do that. So if you would all stand with me, and we will say the 4-way test. And if you online can stay muted. And there we go. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? I'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting, but anybody who has questions for Hyon is welcome to stay. Thank you so much.
Okay. I have a comment for.
Oh, yeah. The microphone's here, so you come just stand
Set up there.
Just stand in front of this camera. You'll be able to see in the long view.
Jan,
Yes, hi.
that was very interesting. It brought back old memories. I was with the 3rd Marine Division, and we were on ships. We were going to make a landing north of the 30th parallel.
Wow.
And we were about halfway across the ocean when they signed the truce. So we ended up in Japan for a couple of years on standby. So,
Lucky you.
So I'm waiting for the book. I can't wait to get it.
Yeah, you know what? This is why, like, I wrote this book back of my mind with the generation of ours, you know, that understand, even though that you didn't go fight there, you understand the Korean War. But I just really like to write correctly that who created, how it went on, and how it's still going.
Mhm.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, many of us have connections. My uncle got a Purple Heart in the Korean War.
It's you know what, David? I give a big salute to your uncle because it was a miserable war, with back and forth from the peninsula. And then when China sent 800,000 Chinese soldiers, that they our poor American soldiers, they were in kind of like in bloody battle, but they number-wise, they just couldn't do it. So there was about 3,000 soldiers die in one battle. And I really, so these are the stuff that I wrote. You know, I got into the history document. I listened to the videos. I listened to the scholars, what they're talking about the war and everything. And then I just really tried to write to the point of the truth. Thank you. Young generations don't understand Korean War, right?
Jan, one of the best things that I've seen coming out of the Korean War is the show MASH.
Yeah.
It's really the only documentation we have that's readily available.
Yeah.
Is that at all accurate?
Well, you know what? I mean, when you make a production to show on TV, that there's some exaggerations and things, you know, but I worked with the American GIS for 5 years. So the humors and all that uplifting and things like that, I think it's there. And then back in the war, Korea was a miserable place. So I think that, and then bare mountains and everything. So I think they try to be accurate, you know, to do that. So I even enjoyed MASH, you know. And 1950, you know, it was horrible. And when I go there now, it's like, oh my goodness sake, Korea, you gotta go to Korea. Just Mary Jo, you know, now, I even took a picture of bathrooms. It's impeccably clean and so up to date. Every department stores everywhere, it's like they create a wonderful Korea. And
Place and the food is very good.
yeah, and then, you know, when you think about this, American troops are there, you know, and then of course there's China and Russia and the Japan. So it is so important that American troops are there.